So good morning and thank you for joining us today for the Cyprium Metals Investor Webinar. Today we are joined by Cyprium Metals Managing Director, Barry Cahill, who will provide an update on operations, including the recent updated Nifty copper mineral resource estimate, and present the recently lodged investor presentation with the Q&A session to follow. We'll be starting the webinar with the recently lodged investor presentation, and to ask a question throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So with that said, Barry, I will hand over to you to provide an update.
Thanks, Jane. Good morning, everyone. I'll just share screen and put the preso up, and I'll just, even though it's a complete presentation, I'll talk to the relevant bits for this webinar. I won't go too much into this. For those who are interested in management changes, in the announcement that we made this morning, we notified of the appointment of a few management changes, which is very, very important to the whole project and the process. John Banning, who was our GM of Nifty, has been promoted to our Chief Operating Officer. John's very, very experienced mining engineer. He's basically taken over the site at Nifty and been responsible for the employment of the people and the setup, and he's been running hard with the restart study and the government approvals that we've been going through. Gavin Hammer, who was a maintenance engineering manager at Nifty, has been promoted to GM Project Development and Operational Readiness. And Gavin's now responsible for the design, construction and operation of the Nifty SXEW, and then he'll move on to do the Maroochydore Murchison stuff. And then Clint Moxham, who was our 2IC at Nifty, has been promoted to GM at Nifty. Again, another experienced mining engineer geologist, lots of experience. And then we've made some other changes that we announced to where Amanda Croft, who was our geology manager, is now technical services manager. Again, very experienced geologist. She's been responsible for all the drilling and that we've been doing. And then Sean Beamish, who was Gavin Hammer's 2IC, has been promoted into Gavin's old position. Again, really experienced mechanical people, just trying to build and move the company forward. And those guys and ladies have all been working very, very hard. Put out the updated resource. Just so people understand, we basically have a resource that was done historically by the previous operator. We've taken that resource and we've applied our own criteria to it. And we've come up with a new resource, which basically draws a line in the sand around what we're doing. What is not in that resource is any of the new assays that we've been putting out, any of the new infill drilling, the conversion of inferred to indicated and measured and those sorts of things. None of that's been included. Assay labs are really, really slow at the moment, which is frustrating for us all. So we expect to have another update for that probably around February, which will include as much of the new data that comes in probably before Christmas, because it'll take a couple of months for us to do the recal. But what's important is you can see that the resource has expanded, which is what we expected when we bought this asset. So the due diligence, the proof of concept studies that we did are proving to be correct in what we expected out of this ore body and this deposit. So what else have we been doing? I just keep reminding people that we've been going and doing this for 8 months. 8 months. And we are behind time, which we put a release out this morning, which I'll go through. But we've been doing it for 8 months. Some companies out there have been doing this work for 10 years and still haven't started. We've been doing it for 8 months. So where people talk about missing timelines and things like that, and we have aggressive timelines, yeah, we do, because we want to plate copper as quickly as possible. But we've been going for 8 months. And in that time, we've drilled and expanded the mineral resource. We've done over probably 30,000 metres of drilling in our 3 sites now. We've done metallurgical tests at work to optimise the process. And again, we get queried about leaching. 200,000 tonne of copper has been leached from this resource. The Western Mining leaching was targeting 150 days for 85%. The Straits leaching was targeting 600 days for 85%, and 200,000 tonnes of copper was produced from those leaching characteristics. We are testing and aiming for 85% in 350 days. That's what we're trying to achieve. The worst case scenario is it's straight at 85% at 600 days. It's already proven. There's no doubt. I've got reports that demonstrate that from the last 10 years of operation. Why in the minds of some people is leaching an issue now? It's not. And we need to be clear, and we've put this repeatedly in our reports, in our releases. Leaching is not an issue. It's us trying to minimise the time of leaching. Why do we minimise the time of leaching? Because if we minimise the time of leaching, we need less pads. We can stack material, leach the copper out quicker. We don't need the big pad space where it has to sit there for 2 years or a year. If we can get it quicker, then we need less leach pad space, which means there's less upfront capital to build it. It's easier to maintain a production profile for the SXEW. That's what the optimisation process is about. And that has been good. We've got excellent results. What we're trying to do now is to reduce our reagent consumptions. But I'll talk a bit more about that later. We've put our first government approval in. We submitted 2 documents to get a government approval. Unfortunately, with the approvals process, 2 Fridays ago, we found out that the approval processes have been delayed through the government because of manning, the same reason we're having trouble getting reports out of consultants. I mean, on the Met test work, I haven't got a report yet, by the way. We're just having trouble getting reports out of consultants. The government's got the same problem. They're understaffed. I've got a lot of sympathy for them because I know what's happening in the industry. And what we're seeing with some of our approval timelines is one of the approvals was 28 days. We workshopped, we met, try and get the documents right so we don't have any delays. We were told then 3 months. Just in the last 2 weeks, we're told that's now 5 months because the government are getting further and further and further behind on the approvals. Another approval that we require, which is quite important, is 6 to 9 months. So again, there's delays there and we can't do anything about it. So in the release, what we've said is we'll get all of the government approvals, all the different documents will be in by February at the latest. And the reason it's February is that last week, one of our consultants told us that a critical report that we need to go into an approval document wouldn't be ready till February. That's the reason why February is that date. And again, we sit here and we wait. I can't make the government, I can't make consultants work any quicker. There's nothing I can do about it. So we have to sit here and wait. When the information becomes available, we put the approval in, we talk to the government, hopefully, which is why we workshopped it. All the documents are correct and the poor old government worker who's under stress, just like all of us, can go through and there's no problems with the document and they'll go through the process. If there's a problem with the document, there's a problem with something we submitted, then it has to come back to us. And remember, notwithstanding, we've already got permitting and approvals for most of the job. So you imagine if we're a greenfield site and we're trying to get a full brand new approval, which is what we're not doing, it'll be even worse. So for us, as a refurbishment, as a restart, with the assistance of the government, we're going as fast as we can. Everyone's going as fast as we can, but it's just not possible. Our relationships with our traditional owners and our government authorities have gone really well. We're engaged. We're working with that all the time. I've talked about the new versus refurbishment. We went for refurbishment, again, because of the timeline. So we've been fully aware of timelines for some time now because the reason we didn't go new was because of the 2-year delivery timeline. And again, if you're building a greenfield site right now and you sign to get your plant delivered 2 years before it gets to site, structural steel's an issue, labour's an issue, all these things are an issue. Refurbishment engineering design, again, it's nearing completion. Part of the final bit for the refurbishment and engineering design is the confirmation of the metallurgy on the reagents, because the reagents quantities go into the engineering and design. And because I haven't got the reagents quantities finalised, I haven't got the engineering design finalised. Refurbishment process on the SXEW, we've already started, and I've got some photos that show that. So what's our focus for the future? First focus for the future is complete the restart study, move to finance as quickly as we can. Still waiting for assays, which is why we've delayed the restart study, because we haven't got the approvals. So we might as well just wait for the assays, redo the resource, redo the restart study and the project finance on that new resource with the data, whatever we've got leading up to Christmas. As we know, nothing's going to happen through Christmas anyway, so we may as well get the data, reset it for January and go hard again in January. Tender and procurement of long lead items are still ongoing. Where we can, we'll delay some of those, but the ones we have to buy, we'll buy. We'll complete the government approval process, complete the refurb and construction, complete all our metallurgy and optimisation and all those sorts of stuff, and do what we do well: drill holes, build stuff, because we build stuff. We don't talk about it. Break rock, plate copper. And you'll see as you go through some of these photos, we've already started building stuff. So we've upgraded planes for the expanded workforce. We've got about 100 people going in and out of site at the moment, including contractors. Refurbishment of the SXEW, you see the crane sitting there, pulling out agitators out of the agitation tanks on the SXE side. We've opened up all the settlers and been cleaning out the settlers. We've been taking cathodes and anodes out of the EW, which is behind this photo. Bit of native copper from the heap. So I was walking over the heaps 1 and 2, just having a look around, and I actually kicked this rock off heap 3 myself. So I just saw it laying there and I thought that looks like native copper. So I booted. Lucky it wasn't a bigger bit, it would have broken my toe. But anyway, so that you can see the native copper that's laying on that heap 3. We found another big chunk when we're digging the trenching samples on heap 5 and 6. So that's pretty good. And then just a shot of the edge of the southwest of the pit. You can see the RC rig drilling that phase 2 southeast drilling, and you can see the crane in the background doing the SX. So that's EW sitting there and the SX is behind it. So what are we doing at the moment? Southwestern drilling program's finished. We're waiting for assays. Eastern drill program's phase 2. We're seeing good looking rocks on that eastern program. So we're going to have to go phase 2 western drilling because we've already released results about that. And more results to come. And then we've done phase 2 here, or we're doing it at the moment. We'll probably have to come back and do phase 3. Mine Village refurb started, SXEW refurb started, and I'm doing the optimisation on these old heaps at the moment. Designs are done. We've put in our first set of permitting for the waste dump, which sits out here, and the new design sit here. So that's all good. A few more to go. So a bit about the drilling. As I said, we've done plus 20,000 metres just at Nifty. That's just at Nifty. Returned only 50% of the assays, so we're waiting for the rest. Phase 2 and 3 programs to be required. Diamond drilling, the core's sitting at the lab waiting. I'm just waiting for columns and that to finish, and then we'll get into that material. And we've also got the sonic drilling, which we haven't even looked at, including mineralised waste sonic drilling samples that we haven't even assayed. There's about 550 of them, because just the labs are just backlogged. And then an update, as I said, we expect early 2022 to be an update. So what you see now and what we've put out is draw the line in the sand, and then we'll go for the update. And the update's all around, as I said, these open areas here and these open areas at the end. So a bit about the heap leach. So the optimising the metallurgy. So we've done 4 columns, and this is why it's taken so long, right? But we're doing the right thing. So the first column, we hit hard with a reagent mix, and we got the 80% recovery in a short time. I haven't got a report for that yet because we had to strip the heap, strip the column down, taking residue samples. I'm looking at acid generation in the residue samples for waste or leach characterisation to do with our government approvals. So I haven't got a report for that yet. We've just stripped down column 2, remembering that the heap leach parameter that we're trying to use is a 12-month parameter. So we're actually trying to squash the results up in a much shorter time frame. So as I say, we did over 50 days on the first one. Then the second column, we backed off our reagents, changed some parameters. We've run that. We've only just finished that, stripped it down, washed it out now. Heap 3, we made some more changes. Column 3, we made some more changes to parameters. Again, we've only just shut that down, and we're just starting to strip that out. And these are like 50 days. So you do the maths, right? 150 days on 3 columns is 5 months. Then we started the 6-metre column. So the 6-metre column is the one where we test the parameters of the 6-metre heap on site, and we're allowing that to run. And then we're going to go back to some shorter columns and change some parameters, because we think we can get our reagent usage down even further to optimise it. So that's what we're doing. And I haven't got a report for column 1, let alone column 2, column 3 or column 4, because as you can see in that picture on the right, column 4 is still going. And when we say it's excellent, it's going very well, as we expected, as it has gone historically. What we're trying to do is to minimise the amount of reagents that we put in place. So we'll continue to do that. We're trying to rush it as quickly as we can, but sometimes you can't rush stuff. And as soon as it's available, we'll release it. Not a problem. And I know I've been saying that since August, end of August. That's fine. These things happen. That's what happens. As I said, if you want to go and look at other companies who've been doing this for 10 years, we've been doing it for 8 months. And we've advanced really, really quickly on it. And we just need to keep that in mind with what we're doing. And then just about where we are. And this, unfortunately, has been predicated by the delay to our environmental approvals. We basically got the information. We scrambled last week. We've redone all our schedules and how it affects and how things are looking. And we've moved our production from half one of 2023 into half two 2023. Notwithstanding, we're trying to go as quick as we can, notwithstanding that there is a chance that government approvals might come in earlier. We've been prudent. We've been prudent. We've pushed it back. We've managed how our workflows are going. We're finishing those things that are important, like the restart study and the finance. But we're going back through our construction. We're going back through our earthworks. We're going back through our long lead item purchases. And we're working out when and where we purchase different things, because there's no point purchasing something for delivery in the first half of next year if it's not required till the first half of the year after. So that's what we're working through at the moment. Unfortunate, but again, it's government approval. What do? If I hold my breath waiting, I'll be asphyxiated. We just move on with it. This is what we do. This is what we overcome. So that you can have a look at that. That's been posted up on the ASX, and you can see where we're at. My apologies, but as I said, we found out these timelines over the last couple of weeks. We've scrambled, redone our schedules, and now we're coming out with what we're saying here. So what else have we been doing? Well, at Nifty, as I said, 20,000 assays, we haven't got 10 of them. Metallurgical optimisation still going. Restart studies, charging towards the finish line, which it is. And our government approval process has commenced. We'll finance, construct, operate, and we'll produce copper plate on site as quickly as we can. In the meantime, we've done our drilling at Maroochydore. We've got 6,000 samples at the lab. The cuttings and all those you've seen, you'll hopefully be able to put some release out to show you some pictures. Shortly, you can see some of that, and some of the diamond drilling core looks fantastic, looks very Nifty-like, which is good. We'll update the resource, we'll complete with all the assay results, and then we'll plan stuff for next season. So the season there is finished. It doesn't start again until March. So it gives our resource development group the chance to do all this work now, catch up with the assays, catch up with the resource calculations, catch up with doing their good geology and planning and all that for next year. Same at Murchison, we've got the oxide resource to be completed. Got RC drilling assays to come there as well. You've seen the core. As assays are available, you'll see we release the results. We see, southeast drilling at Nifty, southwest drilling at Nifty. We've seen the Nanati Well core that we drilled basically December, January this year, so fair wait for that. We've still got Stark core that we haven't got assays for. So we've still got a fair bit at Murchison as well. And then again, the same. We've got planning for flora, fauna and TOs. Because remembering at Maroochydore and Murchison, we've still got commitments for expenditure on those tenements that we've got to meet, and we've got to push them along to become our second and third projects. Then the Patterson exploration JV, soil sampling, air core drilling and basal data. We're still waiting for it. IGO have the same problem we do with assays. It's got as bad as some of the assays have been sent into state to get results because it takes too long here. So they've got the same problems as us. As soon as we get the assays, as soon as we get the data, we'll release it to the market like we do. Everything's just really slow at the moment, unfortunately. So then just a little bit about Murchison. These are the latest results from Nanati Well, which you would have seen. And then Maroochydore, hopefully, as I said, we can get a release out, show you some pictures of what the core on that looks like, and then hopefully get some results. Probably won't be available in January, I would imagine, on current timelines for assays. So hopefully see something January or February, and then we'll redo the resource there according to those results. So all still very busy. And then Patterson, which I've just talked about a bit. Again, they're working. They're under the same problems that we have. So basically, in a nutshell, that's it.
Thank you for that, Barry. Look, we do have had a few questions that have come through, so I'll jump onto them. You have answered them, but just in case shareholders did miss. So can you just provide us a little bit more detailed update on the progress of the Met results?
Yeah, look, as I said, so we're on column 4. We'll do a couple of other columns to optimise the reagents. The optimisation of the reagents has gone pretty well, but what shareholders have to remember and what the marketplace has to remember is this material leaches. It's been leached since the 90s. There is 200,000 tonnes of copper metal plate produced on the site. And as I said, the Western Mining had a 120-day leach. Straits had a 600-day leach. We're targeting a 350-day leach. We've actually leached it quicker than that, truth of the matter. But the reagent consumption's where we're trying to work on at the moment. We want to try and minimise our reagent consumption because obviously that adds to profitability. And at the moment, reagents are expensive. Just to explain why we would do that. I mean, if reagents were cheap, we would have just charged ahead. But because of the increase in freight costs, like sea freight, reagents have got quite expensive. The actual base cost of reagents at source is probably the same. It's just freight pricing has tripled. So we're trying to reduce the amount of reagents we use. And that's where we're at. And as I say, like we're planning on a 350-day leach. We've gone 240 days into this process, and I'm onto my 4th column with the group. So we've done pretty well. And that's, again, what the market's got to understand. It's not a little bloody gold plant where you chuck stuff in and then, 4 to 8 hours later you get gold out the back end. It's not like that. It just takes time. And we're trying to accelerate as much as we can. It's just everything's slow.
Thanks for that, Barry. Just there's been a few questions just about the concentrator. So can you please also outline the plan for that?
There is no plan for the concentrator. We've made that clear from the start. Basically, the sulfide material we're intending to heap leach. The more research we've done, we're getting more confident about that. But because of the optimisation of the oxide transitional heap leach, we haven't done the work. And that'll start next year once we've optimised the oxide transitional. We'll start it next year. If that's successful, we don't have a use for the concentrator. We've looked at whether we could use it for acid production, so there's still an opportunity there. If the sulfide metallurgy on the heap leach doesn't work, we'll refire the concentrator up on the sulfide portion of the pit to produce concentrate. But at the moment, that doesn't look likely, but we'll have an answer to that question next year.
Thanks, Barry. And so, look, in the past, you've said that the mineralisation at Nifty is well known, but you are seeing evidence of other minerals not previously detailed in the history of the deposit. So can you just expand a little bit on that one?
Yeah, we're seeing a bit of carolite, which is a cobalt mineral, which is unusual. And I've said this before on one of the webinars, I think there's cobalt at Maroochydore, which is in the same formation. But historically, there hasn't been cobalt notable at Nifty, but we're seeing it in the mineralogy. It doesn't mean anything because cobalt goes into solution. So if you've got a lot of cobalt, it goes into solution and you can actually you can plate it or make a cobalt sulfate once it's in solution. So it's not difficult to extract. I mean, it's just interesting that it's not been noted before. There's also a few zinc and lead minerals in some of the beds, but again, nothing to note because zinc goes into solution as well. So you can actually, if you've got a zinc ore body, you can heap leach and plate zinc as well. So they're just notable. We don't focus on them too much. It's just out of interest, really. So, it is what it is. If there's enough in there commercially, we'll extract it. But basically, we're fundamentally concentrating on copper. If there's anything else that we can plate or extract out of the solution, we'll get it.
Thanks, Barry. And just finally, so what are you most looking forward to and what can shareholders look forward to over the coming months?
All I want for Christmas is all my assays. But I'm not going to get them. It's only 3 weeks away. It's like really frustrating. Our timelines are now being dictated by consultants and by the government. My personal view is that we're not in charge of our industry anymore. We're at the hands of all these other influences. So you have to have consultants' reports, you have to have government approvals, and they work to their own timeline these days because you can't, I can't get rid of a consultant and go to an alternative because there is no alternative. Everyone's flat out, everyone's busy for lots and lots of reasons, which I won't go into, but we're we're not in control of the timeline. So we just have to work through it and sit there and wait. Once we've got the reports, once we've got the government approvals, we're then in control of the timeline, and we can go and we can build it and we can operate it. We can produce copper metal plate. That's where I want to get to. At the moment, we're just not in control of the timeline. Welcome to the mining industry in 2021.
Well, look, Barry, I think that covers everything. If we have missed any questions, please feel free to reach out via the contact details on the bottom of our ASX releases. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.